The Last Wide Open is making its Michigan premiere at Theater Nova, and today we're talking to two of the cast members, Josie Herman and Michael Allen Herman from this production. Thank you so much for being here.
Oh, thank you so much for having us. It's a joy to be here.
So you're kind of entering into your final week, the beginning of your final week before the show opens. Michael, how are you kind of feeling right now?
Honestly, we feel really great. Yeah, Diane and the whole staff at Theater Nova has been unbelievable, and we feel really prepared for Tech Week. We just had last night our first dress rehearsal, so that was the first time getting used to the costumes, but we'd even been using like rehearsal costumes, so even our costume changes were like ready to go.
It's usually the last week, right, Josie, that everything kind of gets figured out and you're kind of putting the pieces all together, but it sounds like it's going rather smoothly.
Yeah, all the way along, we've been adding more and more little details here and there, so it feels like in this first tech dress that we've had, it's a lot of the stuff is familiar already that we're doing.
And you know how like in every show, there's like a phase where you're like, ooh, nobody should come see this show.
Yeah.
It's not going to possibly be ready.
I think we're already past that phase.
Yeah. Now we're at that stage where we're like, hey,
everyone come see the show.
People should come see this show.
I mean, that's a good place to be, though. That, you know, I feel like it's always the stress of this last week, and you're just like, I don't know if this is going to come together. But if you've already passed that phase, you're in a good place.
Yeah.
So what's kind of the story of The Last Wide Open for maybe those who aren't familiar with it?
Yeah, one of the best ways to describe it is we're saying it's a multiverse rom-com because it shows three different versions of the same characters' lives based on their choices. And it's the story between Mikołaj and Lena, who are two employees at a small Polish restaurant. And based on how they live their life, they have a different relationship with each other and there are different phases of their lives. And it's really fun to see these characters navigate these difficult choices.
What was it about this project, Josie, that really kind of, you were like, I have to be a part of this?
Oh, goodness. Well, I love love stories. It's a very cute, quaint story, but it also hits really hard too. And I'm not a super big fan of just like really trite like Hallmarky things. I'm not just a fan of those, but like really deep things about love that really hit home. I'm really into, and this one does that. It's deep, but it's also funny. It's also cute. It's adorable. So yeah, I love it. And then the opportunity to work with Michael is so fun. So I'm so excited to that we got the chance to be cast together. That's pretty rare that we would get to do a show together like this. So I'm just so excited.
What is it kind of like to bounce off the two, like being a real couple, being, married to each other? What is it like to also get to bounce that off on stage for each other? I mean, obviously it adds authenticity to the show.
Yeah, that's a great question. Do you want to take it?
Yeah. I think that like we can understand each other's humor a lot. This show is very funny. It's a rom-com. So, and I think like there's just like moments where we can make each other laugh, and then like literally the laughter is authentic. It's like, I really thought that was funny. I really think that you're cute. I'm really in love with you. So it's fun to get to experience that. Anything else?
Yeah, I totally agree with that. I think that you said it too, Brian. There's like a genuineness to our relationship on stage, and we love working together. I think that we've been doing it for, close, like 10 years now?
Yeah, definitely 10 years.
Almost 10 years working together.
Before we even were a couple, we studied theater together. So we
awesome.
Found out that we liked working together. I think we were in shows together before we were dating or anything like that. And we just thought, hey, like I like working with you. So we've kept that up.
I mean, it's a good basis. It's a good basis to have, as a psychologist, specifically as couples therapist. Like, it's good to have that basis of something that you have in common, but also then people are going to buy into that. You know what I mean? They're going to go see the show and they're going to see, they actually like working with each other. They like being around each other. They care about each other. So it adds, like I said, authenticity to what the show, The Last Wide Open, really is kind of going on with.
Absolutely. And even like behind the scenes too, it's like there's days where we struggle with certain things and we're just like not feeling, it's like, oh, I messed up that part. And I feel like just being there for each other, it like builds not only our relationship, but also these characters' relationships on stage too. It's like we truly are there for each other in times where we're feeling like everything's going really smoothly, and also when it's like, oh gosh, okay, we're helping each other get through this moment because we're messing up our lines or whatever. So it's really great.
It also makes rehearsals super easy because like running lines, we did it all the time,
Yeah.
trying to get the
Yeah.
memorization into our heads, and we live with each other. So,
Yeah. So it's like, look, yeah,
we can
wanna
run
run
lines
lines? Let's do
all the time,
it.
just doing dishes and running lines.
I mean, that's awesome to have that built-in part with that then too. Just being like that, hey, we can run lines whenever we want to. Like
Yeah.
that's awesome. So Josie, you're playing Lena. So who would you say Lena is to you?
Oh, great question. Well, Lena in some ways is similar to me, in some ways very different. But uh, she's a young woman who is really, really scared to jump into love. She is the one I think that she's the one that has the big arc of the show of like, should is love worth it? Is love should you even bother to fall in love, or is it going to be too much pain? And she kind of has to go through that in all these different timelines that we have. There's like 3 different movements of the play. She's kind of the one that is like, I gotta break this because it's not worth it. I'm not gonna do this. It's terrible. So I think she is very much like the one that the audience can sometimes relate to and be like, yeah, love is really hard. I don't know. I don't know if I'm ready for it. I don't know if I want to even bother. And I think it's Miguel's character that you know, that kind of pulls her into it more and more throughout the show.
I mean, I think you're right though. I think that there's, as you get older, you're just like, what? You're kind of jaded about love. You know what I
Yes,
mean? And or you
exactly.
kind of become jaded about it.
Yes, that's so true. And that's so true for Lena's character. It's like there's different, like we said, there's different timelines, and so she's kind of going through different things in each one. Like in one, she's like just single and she's like so jaded of love. The second one, she is engaged to someone that she doesn't really like and stuff. And so I guess I won't go through the whole story, but it's in all of these timelines, she's experienced love in a different way. And in all 3 of the timelines, love has kind of hurt her in some way. So I think that there's something that anyone and everyone can relate to in that, because I think everyone to some degree has been hurt by love in some way or another, whether that's really, really intense or just a small crush that didn't return that feeling in high school or whatever.
And so, Michael, for you, you're playing Mikolaj. Who is he to you?
Oh, yeah. I mean, Mikolai is like this golden retriever man. He is so fun and so in love with the idea of love. And he is this sort of like bolt of sunlight that exists inside of this story. And I immediately fell in love with his psychology, like who this character is and how much joy he brings into the room. Not to say that he doesn't go through challenges too, he certainly does. But I love that he is this way. And then on top of that, he is this Polish immigrant who's come to America and found sort of a little bit of a home at this Polish restaurant that, of course, reminds him of home. And he is trying to navigate language barriers and cultural barriers and all of these challenges of coming to America with English not being your first language. And in one of the movements, like just barely understanding English at all. And so we see him sort of navigating those first steps, not only into love, but into like America and in what it means to be a citizen here. So he's a great character. I enjoy like the body and the energy of him every time we run this show. I'm not going to get tired of this character. I just think he's a joy.
I would say when you said golden retriever energy, that has to be kind of exciting to step into that because it's such a positive. Like, I mean, you can't help but be happy when you're kind of in that energy as you're playing that role.
Yes, I totally agree. He's so much fun in that way, and yeah, it's everything. It's like in the physicality, it's in the language. I also did a lot of research into the Polish culture, and Josie is very Polish, so I've seen it like Polish families, and how like that culture exists too, and that was awesome to dig into that because previously to this, I knew very very little Polish, and then I have to speak Polish for some of the lines in this production too. So that was a deep research,
And have the accent.
and have the accent, the Polish accent, which is tricky too. And it's funny because the language like looks like a Wi-Fi password. It's so many syllables, and it's really different, than English, and like their culture is just very different, so than American. So it's fun. It's been really fun to like step into that world.
Has it also been like probably the biggest challenge of the show? Would you say then, kind of trying to learn, like, to like soak in as much of the Polish culture and language and stuff
I
as
think
possible.
so. Yeah, that I think then stacked on top of we are playing some music and singing in this
Yeah.
production as well.
Okay.
So keeping this Polish character inside that identity is also really challenging because sometimes when you sing, it's like, oh, okay, it's music time. Let's
Mhm.
just sing a song. But that's
Yeah.
not musical theater. We need to be that character and be that spirit inside the song as well. So I think that's been for me the biggest challenge.
Yeah.
I'm just like not great at musicals.
Well, and the show is not a musical.
No, no.
It's described as
Okay.
it's a play with music. So like every once in a while, the character. I think there's only
There's three. Yeah.
three,
Four. There's four songs.
songs in the whole show. So we just kind of
Okay.
like burst into song every once in a while. But it is not. I would not at all describe this as a musical.
Right.
Which is it's been a challenge for us because we typically don't do musicals. We
Yeah.
typically don't sing. We're actors.
Yeah, we love straight plays. Yeah, we're very like
Sure.
So
play
it's been a
people.
challenge for us, but it's also been a really rewarding challenge. I feel like we've grown a lot in that. And Diane is really our director Diane has really helped us out, kind of bringing out the character of the songs. And so yeah, it's been good.
That is super awesome. I mean, I love a show that has a little bit of, I feel like music is so important, even to everyday life, that like,
Oh
it
yeah.
makes sense that there would sometimes be a straight show that would have just a little bit of music.
Yeah, right. It's really fun. I mean, I'm a huge music fan. I just don't typically do music, so I totally agree with you. I feel like music really brings a lot to a performance and just the world. I love music so much.
So you had mentioned, Josie, that this story is also kind of like three alternate timeline or like three different realities. Um, is it? Do you approach developing your character like differently than you would just like a straight show where it's like a from start to finish because there are three different timelines? Like, how do you go about doing that?
Really interesting question. Yeah. Yeah, I think so. There's a different sort of energy to each one. And that's just based on the text really, but in the second one, for instance, she's going through a whole different phase, and she's much more manic because it's like just like things are moving faster for her. In the first one, it
Sure.
was just like stillness and kind of like this cloud of well, like I hate love, I hate everything, I hate my life. In the second one, things almost are moving too fast, so she's kind of like
Sure.
get like I feel like the language and everything and just the way you embody that as an actor changes too, just based on the scenario that you're in. Would you say anything different?
Oh yeah.
Oh, and your
Yeah.
character is very different too, because in each one of these movements, his character has been in America for a different amount of time. So that's maybe even I think
Okay.
more interested. If you want
Sure. Yeah. So the first one, he's been there for about a year or so,
2 years.
2 years. Yeah, 2 years, and so a little more familiar. He like understands the language. The second movement, it's 2 days that he's been in America. So, culture shock
Oh,
is pretty much that movement.
correct. Yeah.
How do we navigate everything? And almost everything's different and a little bit strange. And so, fortunately, like the text also supports that too, where it's a lot of just speaking Polish. It's a
Mhm.
lot of
Yeah.
not understanding English words and trying to like figure out like navigate that. And then the last movement, it's 15 years that he's been in America. So
So much more
way
Americanized.
more
and
Americanized,
yeah.
way more comfortable, and he says words like "dude" and like other American things that are very much to speak to that 15 years that he's been in the country. So
Mhm.
it's a great written script. Like it's very very layered, and we found all these little gems as we've gone along to help like build these characters. But we do think of them differently. Like each movement is like a different psychology, yet at the same time the same. We didn't want to have them be completely different people. Like they still are the same character, just
Mhm.
their life has been
Yeah.
has drastically changed them, which is
Mhm.
really cool.
Yeah.
I was gonna say that I think that that's probably super interesting from even like an audience perspective to see, like, because the core person is still the same, but like like you said, specifically for your character, Michael, like having the different time, like that plays a huge difference in who a person is. If you've been there for 15 years at a place, it's much different than 2 years to even 2 days. So
Totally.
it
Yeah.
has to be incredible as an actor to also kind of play with that.
Totally, totally. And I've tried my very best to like have that affect the dialect even as well. It's like a much thicker dialect in the second one where he's like really trying to understand what's going on. It comes across as like this is like too linguistic probably, but like some of like the subtle like endings, like the G's becoming K's and like these different things that are like really, really like linguistic for like Eastern Europe,
Yeah.
would be present in the second movement, but not in the other movements. So finding some of those with the textual analysis was a joy.
So at Theater Nova, how do you feel like they're bringing the world of The Last Wide Open to life on stage? Like with the staging, the
Mm.
movement, how is that kind of coming together?
Well, the set is really adorable. So the whole play takes place in this Polish restaurant, and it's just a beautifully made set. It's the details are really lovely. Myself being Polish, like I feel like I recognize all these little things, these little kind of tchotchkes on the wall, and there's one of my favorite things is there's like this picture on the wall of Pope John Paul II, who's a Polish pope, and like, Polish people just like love that, so they're like, "Oh, John Paul II," So I think it's just a fun little detail that like Polish people, I'm sure, would walk in and go like, "I get it, Polish restaurant, I see you there," and so yeah, I think it's really adorable, and just I think they did a fantastic job. Even the world, the coloring, and the lighting as well is a beautiful design. In the show, and yeah, anything.
Yeah, I think that that lighting especially is really helpful to help step out into those like
Yeah.
magical realism moments when we do burst into
Sure.
song and like reality stretches and bends a little bit. The lighting really helps with that and can transform like a normal looking diner into something really extraordinary. So, oh man, I mean, Theater Nova is like black box theater at its finest.
Yeah, what we love about working with Theater Nova is that the audience is so close. They're right there with us, and you get to this play also breaks the fourth wall, which is, when we
Oh, okay.
sometimes talk directly to the audience, and that's so much fun because they're right there. You just walk right up to them and look them right in the face and be like, "What do you think about this?"
Yeah.
And it's one of the best parts about working in a space like Theater Nova, and I love the audiences Theater Nova. They're very friendly and everything too.
Yeah,
So
that's true. And because Theater Nova is a thrust stage, so
yeah,
there's,
like audience
audiences
on
on
three
three
sides.
sides. That also, of course, changes the staging and how we play diagonals or how we can, punctuate a certain moment so that everyone can see it. That's a really fun challenge to think about as an
Yeah.
actor. That's a little different than like a standard proscenium or something like that. It's also like a thought. You can just like almost like just receive energy and the
Yeah.
audience sees it.
It's
They
fun.
feel it.
It's kind of a little similar to film acting in that way that, it doesn't have to be this huge like choice, wow, like big SpongeBob acting. It can just be this very subtle, like Michael said, you can just think a thought and the audience can perceive that because they're so close to you. So it's I love that type of very subtle
Yeah,
acting.
we love that stuff. Oh,
Mhm.
I'd say it's my favorite. Would you say it's your favorite like style of theater, black
Yeah.
box? Yeah.
Yeah.
I do love the intimacy of a black box theater just because it's you and the people around you. And it's not like when you go to like, the Fox Theater and there's 5,000 seats and you can't interact with people,
Yeah.
you are they're seeing your face. And I feel like that changes a lot of like seeing a show too, when you can see the emotions on somebody's face and what they're going through
Yes.
in such an intimate way.
Yeah, so true. I think Sir Ian McKellen said this recently, which was that like they call it a house because the theater is a home, and for
Mhm.
like that night you become a family. And
Mm.
I feel like that's so true in that little space of Theater Nova. It's you feel it so apparently that it is this little family for that night. Like you said, you can see each other, and it's this
Yeah.
very intimate experience for that space. So it's a treat.
Josie, you had mentioned about you breaking the fourth wall. And as an actor for both of you, do you feel like that is that exciting? Is that scary? Like what is that like? Because it kind of breaks that traditional theater, like what you expect, having kind of the wall there, and you acting on stage and us audience just watching.
That's a really great question because sometimes it can be a little bit like yeah, I can be kind of a shy person when I'm not acting. So that is a challenge a little bit to go right up to an audience member and look them in the face. And it's a little different. You're right. It's a little different than standard acting. So I'm very much looking forward to it. Also scared of it a little bit, but there's like moments I would love to go up to. I'm sure there's going to be lots of people in the audience that we know, so I'd love to go up to an audience member and tease them a little bit, or find someone that looks a little shy and then maybe tease them a little bit. I'm excited to experience that challenge, but a little nervous. What about you?
Oh yeah, I'm nervous too. Fortunately, in rehearsals, they've had people, they've been
Yeah.
having designers and people come in to sort of give us people to riff with, so we
Yeah.
aren't completely going in cold. But we'll see
Sure.
how the crowd work goes. You never know what someone's gonna say. They could say anything.
Yeah. Yeah, if you ask
For
them a
sure.
question and then they have to answer it, then it could be like, "Oh, okay, well, didn't expect that."
Yeah.
Yeah, it changes for that moment, the show, You're like,
Yeah, it
oh,
does.
okay, well. So, Michael, what themes from the show really seem to resonate the most with you right now?
Oh man, I think, um, oh wow, I think connection. I think love, but and I feel like people say love a lot, but this play says something about love. It
Mhm.
says how so many things are required for love. It requires vulnerability, it requires heartbreak, it requires trust, it requires like that leap of faith. And I think that the play says all of those things are required for love. So it's not just like, yeah, love. It's like the weight of love, the power of love is really beautiful. I think there's a optimism to this play. It's a breath of air to say like love matters and that love exists and it's important to pursue. And oh, and then of course probably the most apparent theme is choice and how choices affect our lives. I think any sort of multiverse story is about choices in some kind of capacity, and I think this one talks about how if you went that way, or if you moved to this country then, or if you went to this restaurant, like how would that affect your life, even if it's just a simple little choice, how it can drastically affect you. And it's sort of one of those brain puzzles that if you think about it in your own life, you
Sure.
start to spiral a little bit, like whoa, all the decisions we
Oh,
make every day.
my life could have been so different if I
Yeah,
did that.
right. But then in the same breath, it's very optimistic to say that those choices really do lead to something beautiful. And I
Yeah.
think that's
And
great.
I think, just to add on to that, what is beautiful about this play is that with all these different changes because of choices, what's kind of beautiful is like at the time that each scene takes place, you see that there is still a choice to be made in that moment. Like no matter what happened before, no matter what choices brought you to this exact place, there's still a choice in that moment that could change your life, and you have to make that choice and decide like, am I going to do it or am I not going to do it?
Absolutely. And I think that what I love about stories like this too is just that, again, as a psychologist, putting on my psychologist hat here, is that while there's all these decisions, we always make the ones that are best for us in that moment, but also we learn to hopefully not regret those decisions because what we have, like you said, Michael, is still beautiful in that way.
Yeah, yeah.
So
That's super interesting. Do you feel like that's a conversation that you have a lot as a psychiatrist, like about choices and like how those choices like affect lives? And
more than you would imagine.
wow,
Yeah.
Wow.
oh, very interesting.
Because a lot of times people do get hung up on like one choice. Usually it's like a big choice.
Mm,
It'd be like, maybe if I went to this place, it'd be different, or maybe if I
yeah.
would have stayed in this relationship, it'd be different. And it's always about like, you made a choice, and how do you live with that? And it's cool when you can kind of see a show like this where it plays out multiple ways,
Mhm.
and it shows you how things maybe look different, but also in the end, hopefully it's still, like I said, still beautiful and wonderful, whatever life you're living at that point.
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
totally. That's exactly it. And
Yeah.
how like those different choices just
Yeah.
they result in different things. And like it is different. There is
Mhm.
beauty in all of it, but it is different. Yeah,
Mhm.
and that's
Mhm.
really cool to explore.
And none of the choices that you make in all these different timelines are like dooming to you. It's like
Right.
you
Right.
still have life to live.
Yeah.
That's a beautiful sentiment. I hope that's what audiences really will kind of walk away with, is just that like there's still plenty of life, there's still plenty of love. And um but I just want to thank you both for being here, Michael and Josie. It's been so incredible to talk to the two of you, and again, we're
Right
so
back
excited
at
for the
you.
show.
Yeah, right
So
back at you, Ryan.
thanks for being here.
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you.
So the Last Wide Open arrives on May 22nd and runs through June 14th. So get your tickets now, and we'll see you at the show.